Welcome to Leicester Fan TV. My name's Phil. It's Monday night. It's 7:30. We go live every Monday, whatever the score, whether we're winning the Premier League, fighting in Europe, or losing away at Forest. We will do that. Follow us at Leicester Fan TV down there on the socials, on whatever channel you want. As ever, the next 30 minutes, we want to get as many of your views in as possible. That's what this show is all about. There's so much to talk about. Obviously, we lost 2-0 at Forest. We all know that. But what are the big talking points tonight? Is it Brendan? Is he solely to blame? Are you Brendan in? Are you Brendan out? We can talk about that. Is it the players? It feels like they're not dying for the shirt anymore. Is it them? Have we got too many injuries? Is it that? Is it the board? What's going on throughout the whole club? Do you want to talk about the board maybe? What is the direction of the club at the moment? I'm going to spin this one back at you and me. Is it us? Is it the fans? Are we part of the problem? Are we expecting too much now? Have we been tasted the champagne of Premier League success? Is it us? So much to talk about in tonight's show. Tom's going to join me very, very shortly. Get your views in, get your comments in, and welcome to what will no doubt be a very lively fanzine show.
Welcome to Leicester Fan TV. Are you ready for the show? Thanks to our sponsors, ADT.
Well, the video didn't play. It really is just going to be one of those days. Listen, let's get some views in. Let's get some comments in. Alex, good evening. Get your views in, Alex. What do you think to what's going on at the moment? Ball says no fighting among ourselves. FFS. I agree with that. That's what we need. To be fair, Ball Grey, I do want to talk about Saturday's game coming up at home against Brighton. We do need to pull together for that. Karen, good evening. Hope you're well. Still gutted, says LCFC Grey. We lost to those plant pots in there. Ross say, where's the suits? I thought I put the shirt on. I wanted to put the shirt on because I do want to do a bit of a rallying cry for this Saturday. Andy says, how is this clueless clown still in a job? You're talking about me there, Andy? Or you're talking about Brendan? I don't know. How is that our fault? We're just paying the customers. Listen, no, Tim, I'm not saying it's our fault. I'm just saying, have our expectations risen? Is that fair? Is that not? Is it just all part of the mix? Keith saying, let's have no more of this nonsense negativity towards our fantastic owner. Fair play, Keith. It has, for the first time, started to come out a little bit of negativity. I think, Keith, it is because it's like, what is the direction? We didn't buy a player in January last year. We bought one player in the summer after selling one for 70 million, bought one for 15 million. January the 16th, we're not buying one at the moment yet. What is going on? I think that's why people are starting to question what is going on. Michael, still with the best profile picture, says, needs something to change and soon. Nick says, I think something is deep-rooted in the club from top to bottom. Players, manager, board, all included. Where's the money? Where's the fight? Where's the passion? And listen, can anybody explain financial fair play, FFP, to me? Because I do not understand it. How other teams, we seem to have balanced the books quite nicely. Brendan Rodgers says we've got a net spend of £10 million over the last period. But how are clubs like Villa, even Forest, Chelsea, how are they spending this much money? Is it that here's a question for you. Do we use, you got to stay within the FFP. Do we use that to our advantage and saying, oh, that's why we can't spend any money and none of us really understand it? Ross says, I wish we could recall Hamza Chowdhury because he'd have brought... Do you know what, Ross? I hadn't even thought about that. It's a great question, Ross. And I'm going to ask Tom that. I'm going to add him in now. Tom, are you there, mate?
Good evening, mate. Right.
Good evening. I hope you've recovered from Saturday. I want to get through as many comments as we can, Tom, so I'm going to be really punchy with this. That's a great shout from Ross. We could do with a bit of fight in the middle of midfield, couldn't we?
It's what we missed on Saturday from Dewsbury Hall. That's what he's been bringing to the team when he's played. It's that Leicester boy in him, if you think about it. Same as Hamza, the Leicester attitude. He knows what it means to fight for that shirt. He knows what it means to play for the club. And I think Saturday, Dewsbury Hall was a massive loss. I said it in my tweet on Friday when I heard he was out. Biggest loss to the club on Saturday. We'll not be having him in around that team because we missed him last year in the FA Cup. And for me, he would have played instead of Mendy. And I think he really would have given a little bit of fight in the middle of the park and a bit of gut and courage because we had none of it on the pitch at the weekend.
Tim says we can't even compete with Bournemouth in the transfer market. This was a player we were sort of transfer rumour linked with gone there for 20 million, Tom. Transfers, injuries.
Injuries is the big one. Mismanagement of contracts is another one. It's costing us on the old financial fair play, because you've got to be able to, buy players within a budget. You've also got to have the wages included in that budget. People forget that the wages is part of the financial fair play.
Do you understand FFP
Mm-hmm.
at all? Go on then.
Yes.
How are Villa spending all this money? How do we manage to keep selling players for reasonable monies and then not spending that much money? How do we claim that we have to keep within FFP when you see what the teams spend?
So where you got to go is back to last year, the season before, when we were in Europe and we were close to the borderline on that financial fair play within the European thing. What brought a bit of a light and there's some tension to the club. Obviously, then with everything what went off with Top and King Power over the COVID period, they weren't making the money coming into the football club either. So part of King Power Group is shares and stocks into Leicester City. Obviously, those stocks and shares dropped dramatically over a period of time with COVID. So obviously, there weren't the finance coming in. We haven't got a big brand as in a sponsorship deal as some of the bigger clubs. You haven't got the sponsorship deals like the Villas, the Tottenhams, the Liverpools, the Man United. It's all about the sponsorship deals and how big they can go with. Even Man United now are struggling. We're not the only ones. If you look at Man United, a club of their size, they can't even go out and sign a 30, 40 million pound striker because they're at the limits on their financial fair play. If you look at it, they've had to go and sign Van Horst from Burnley for 6 million because they're at their limit. So when there's fans that don't understand it, I don't understand it completely, but I understand, I know how it works. And it's also down to the amount of money you're paying out towards your players on wages. That's been the biggest football club mistake. They've given big contracts to the wrong players. Let's not deny it. I'm talking about Ricardo Pereira, and we're talking about James Justin. And people will look at me and think, oh, why are we bringing them into the equation? You gave contracts, 4-year contracts to injury-proven players. Ricardo Pereira should never have been offered a 4-year deal. He'd just come back from an injury. He'd only played 8 months. And we go, right, we'll give him a 4-year contract. Boom. Well, that's wasted because he's been out again for another 9 months. Whatever it'll be, 6 months, 7 months before he'll be back playing for the football club. James, just another one. Long-term injury, comes back, has a half decent, 7 months. Boom, injured again. But he's on a long-term injury. So you're paying 2 players on a long-term injury to big wages. Same with Johnny Evans, another one, given a contract to go another 2 years. Boom, been out for most of those 2 years. Ryan Bertrand came into the football club. Yes, it was free, but 80,000 a week, and he's more bothered about going to watch Chelsea by the looks of it at the weekend. Vestergaard, another signing of Brendan Rodgers, getting paid 70,000, I think it is a week, 75,000 a week. This all accounts to the financial fair play that you are paying a set amount of wages every week. You need to be able to afford to balance the books on paying these players. The reason it was brought in is to stop the likes of what happened to Derby, Portsmouth, Bolton from happening to any club again. And that's why it's been brought in to stop it happening from the Premier League from overspending.
But that, Tom, then when we're saying is part of the problem at the moment, Brendan Rodgers, is part of it the players, you're pretty much saying part of the problem is how the club's being run potentially.
I generally feel that it isn't Top. I don't blame Top. I blame it's poor management below Top. So I blame the likes of John Rudkin. He's one of them. He's given out these contracts. I've said for too long now, John Rudkin sits in that chair in his ivory tower for too long at this football club. And it's about time he was shipped out the door and fresh blood was coming into that, director of football, because he's been around too long. He's a dinosaur when it comes to his football club now. He's done a lot and I thank him for that. But now he's one who should have gone a long time ago. Andrew Neville, he's another one who's been around the football club a long time, splashing out the contracts, who deals with the players' contract. Sula Whelan, she has to take some of the blame for all this financial fair play mess, because obviously she knows what's going on as a chief exec with players coming in and out of the football club and what we're paying them. She knows how much we were paying Brendan Rodgers. That was an overinflated amount of money we paid to get him through the door, 12 million a year for a football manager. It's things like that. That is the problem. And until you address those problems, and that will happen in the summer by all means, and we'll see that happening in the summer, because you're going to lose a lot of players on frees. What isn't a bad thing, because you're going to get all that net and wage off the bill. Perez, Tillemans, people like that, Daniel Amati, who sadly just isn't good enough, anymore. I think this has come to a point where we're playing a centre midfielder as a centre half, just isn't good enough in that position. You get these players out the door, your wages come down, and suddenly you can go and sign some players because you're in the brackets again where your outgoings and incomings are completely dropped dramatically. I mean, if you look at Tillemans alone, 90,000 a week, that's a massive chunk off the wage bill before you start.
The trouble is, Tom, in the summer, you've got to get to the summer first. And you've got to be, somebody put a question in there. There's so many comments tonight. Keep those comments coming in. I'm trying to put as many on screen as possible. Somebody, and I forget who it was, somebody said, wanted to ask me and you, Tom, do we think we can get out of this season? Do we think we can escape relegation at this rate?
With the squad we've got, no chance. I love Leicester and I don't want us to go down. I've seen too many relegations. I look at the relegation squads of the past. You know, we saw the team in 2000 under Peter Taylor, and then obviously Harry Bassett and Mick Adams go down. It's again this sort of mixture of the wrong players at the wrong time. You know, in that team, it was bad signings: Adi Akinbaye, Junior Lewis, Lee Marshall, not good enough for the Premier League at the end of the day. And then you were looking at the wise old heads who had just started to go over the hill: Jerry Taggart, Matt Elliott. You know, we had Ian Walker in goal. You know, these players were just started to go past their sell-by days. It was the same when we came up with Mick Adams. We signed a lot of old players. Les Ferdinand, Paul Dickoff was still at the club. Brian Dean was still at the club, but we had no youth. Since we came back to the Premier League and under Nigel, he had a mixture. You had that experience in, you know, sort of bringing in Robert Huth, who kept us in the, you know, in that season in the league. You had the experience of David Nugent, who's played a handful of games in the Premier League. You had Casper, who'd been around the squad a long time. But you had a good blend of mixed youth, talented players, and a wise old head at the back, Wasilewski as well. This season, you know, we've built a young team who've got very good, like all teams do. They get better and better and better. You then have to replace it and move the team on. Sadly, because of poor management above, the team has gone backwards, and we're now in a situation. If you look at the squad, we've got a few old heads in there in Albright and Vardy. You look at Danny Ward; he's one of the older heads in the back line. But you haven't got enough talent in there to pull you over the line anymore. You know, where you'd look before and where it wasn't going so well, you had Mahrez to win you a game or get you a point. We don't see that anymore. You know, you can't rely on Tillemans every single week to score a rocket. It's just not going to happen. I just feel this squad at the moment, with all the injuries, is just not good enough. There's just not good enough team in that position. And it's all down to one thing as well. Saturday was the biggest thing for me. The two chances. And a game is all about taking your chances. Harvey Barnes has to score both those chances. Any top player or good Premiership player scores both of those, unless they're 2-0 up and win that game. I do believe we would have won that game Saturday.
I think, Tom, that's great. And I want people to put their comments in as well. Going to the Brighton game on Saturday, for me, I've said this before, but the Saturday game against Brighton, trying to keep, I mean, Brendan's going to be there on Saturday, I'm pretty sure of it. I don't think anything's going to change. And I also don't think we're probably going to sign or loaned anybody in. But I'd like to see, and this is part of my frustration for Saturday, I'd like to see something where you go, he's realised there's something not right and he's tried something different. I'm going to say, I've got a couple of them for you. Is Barnes is off form, so you just keep going with Barnes. And the other one, Tom, is Marty. Now, I'm not slating Marty because I quite like the guy and I think he's an honest player. But at the back there, every game, there's one or two things he does that can cause you a goal. And I'm like, how much longer are you going to carry on before he says, right, Kaglar Sayonku, you are playing in the centre of my defence?
But for Rodgers to do that, he has to trust the players he's picking. And for some strange reason, it doesn't feel like he trusts the players.
I know, but you've been watching Marty every week, Tom, haven't you? You saw him on Saturday.
There's a clanger always in Marty, but for some reason, Brendan Rodgers doesn't feel like he can trust Cags. He can trust Vestergaard. He can trust even Nacho, mate. This is a player who's goals.
I was going to say, for me, two easy ones for Saturday is, sorry, Harvey Barnes, you're on the bench for a little bit. We'll get you back in. But Nacho, you're on. And the same with
But I'd change formation because I don't feel that formation works.
I'd go 4-4-2 and I'd go longer ball, Tom. I think we have to realise, don't we, that we haven't got good enough players at the moment with the injuries to consider passing out from the back. That has to stop, doesn't it?
Oh, I completely agree. I mean, you look at the Great Escape season under Nigel. We were never out of any game. You never felt like we were out of game. Even 2-0, we got a goal back. And you're always going into the last 10 minutes. No, you could nick a point here. And we were unlucky on many occasions where we'd concede the late goal or we'd score a late goal and it was just a little too late. At the moment, it doesn't feel like that, this team. There doesn't feel to be that fight and hunger. With Nigel, he was quick enough to change it in that last, 11 games. He went to a 3-5-2 and just went, do you know what, boys? We're not going to defend good enough. So let's just go at teams. We've got all the trickery, we've got all the pace and the power in Vardy, Mahrez, Drinkwater, James, Cambiasso running the show in the middle of the park. So let's just have a go at teams and see what we can do. That worked. Same really should happen now going forward for the, we've got no choice now but to go to a back three. I would play Scientu. I would play Faz, and then it's who else plays in that back line. Now, obviously, Timmy Castagne can play in that back line, but the question then is who's going to be your wing backs? Luke Thomas isn't good enough for this level yet. He could be, and he could be another Chilwell who could go on to take the Premier League by storm, but he needs to go out on loan in the Championship and toughen his game up. Saturday, Brendan dry at the weekend, in my view, and he did exactly the same when he made the sub to brought on Brunt. He hung him out to dry.
Was a strange one. Oh my God! What you don't want is a young lad who's not really played
against someone with pace.
Yeah, I was just like, what have you done that for, mate? Of all this, again, I come back to of all the subs to do, putting Brunt on. I felt sorry for him. I felt sorry for Luke Thomas. Tom, did you say how many would you play against Brighton at the back then? What is your?
I'd go 3 at the back if I'm honest, and then obviously it's a tricky one. Who do you play where? Personally, I think you've got to stick as all Brighton as the left, right wing back because they're experienced. I think Castagne has to go on to the left because you're very short on players in those full-back positions now. That's the problem you've got. So as automatically, I wouldn't play all Brighton, but I don't think you have an option not to play him at the moment.
So everybody who's watching, Tom's going for a back three. You're going 3-5-2.
3-5-2.
And I'm going old school. I'm going 4-4-2, and I'm saying stop passing out from the back. We're gonna put the ball forward a lot quicker. We're gonna every pass forward. I just think we've got to stop the passing out from the back. So if you're watching this, would you go with Tom's 3 at the back? Would you go with my 4 at the back? A couple of comments, Tom, just before we come back to you.
Yeah.
Barry says here, comes to something on Saturday when Forest go for a corner and Vardy was the one that cleared it. There's holes all over this team. David says, unfortunately, Rodgers has no tactics. He will be never using to earn a plan B. I'm not talking about plan B now, because I'm talking about starting the game in a different formation. I'm starting the game saying Brighton are doing very well, just beaten Liverpool 3-0. They're a great passing team. They're very fast-paced. They'll come at you. So do not play the game passing it around the back because they will come at you. Mark is going for a 5-3-2, the same as Tom. Colin is talking about Bertrand, who I've forgotten about. We don't even know what his injury is. We don't even know where he is. How could you be a year out of the team and not have a date for coming back? I want 3 at the back and 2 up top, but Barnes is fit, so it doesn't matter. Nick's saying 4-4-2, or Brighton keeps his place. He was our best player on Saturday. Liam is going 2-4-4. That's an interesting one. Matty Bond is old school with me, 4-4-2. Joe thinks Tom's formation is right. Graham's with me, 4-4-2. A lot of top comments we're going to come on to next. 3-5-2 is an easy choice, says Colin in there. He only has one plan, but play 4-4-2 to play Sionku instead of Amati. That's what I'd do, Andy. 3-5-2. Phil, yeah, I am. Listen, Keith, back to basics for me. Back to basics is what we want to do. I want to, Tom, ask you next. I'm trying to find a comment that fits for this because there's been a few coming in. But a few talking about Jamie Vardy. And Ashley there says, drop Vardy, bring in Nacho. Jamie Vardy is just, he's not on fire either, is it? Tom,
what? Been on fire.
Daka, I'm not Daka's fan. You know that. I think Daka's been a bad buy and part of the problems for me. But it seems like we've got Daka or Vardy, and then you've got Barnes seems to start, and you've got Nacho doesn't want to be played. So I start looking at where's the next academy player or somebody who can go up top. What do you do?
Well, this is another thing that gets me. We've got George Hurst, who's been out on loan to several clubs, who seems to score a handful of goals at the minute. Obviously, he's not good enough in the Championship either. So we're wasting money paying a kid that young. He's 23. He's not a kid now. He's 23,
he's
24.
Not a kid.
If he was good enough, he'd be playing around the first team by now. So for me, he's another one draining the football club of a wage who's not going to ever make it. As for Vardy, what can you say? Look, the man, the GOAT, is a legend of the football club, and this season's maybe started to take his toll on his age. We've still got a season and a half left with him. I'm not going to sit here and slate the bloke because obviously he's not played a lot all the time. But also, again, you've got to give him service. And at the weekend, he was just getting balls lumped up to him. He's not. You've got no one around him to flick the ball on. He's trying to win the flick-ons. It should be the other way around. Someone should be flicking the ball from him. I know he's lost that yard of pace now. We all can see he's lost that yard of pace. But he's also can be deadly when he does get in and around the penalty area. But if you look at all the last, 7, 8 games, he's not having a chance. He's not having a single chance to have a shot because no one's making the chances for him. What he did Saturday was he made the runs to pull people out of position. So he's still got that cleverness of Vardy. Because you look at the Barnes chance in the first half, that was all because Vardy made the run to the front post because he knew Barnes was behind him. But for the weekend, I would play Daka and Nacho. We saw what they did in the first leg at their place before they battered at 5-2. But we saw what they did. They caused Brighton problems, and I would play both of them in that
play
game.
Daka and Nacho
at the weekend because I generally feel you've got take Vardy out of the team for a bit. He played full 90 minutes. He ain't going to play full 90 minutes at the weekend. I played Nacho and Daka because of the problems they caused Brighton in the first game. I really feel they can't cope with them.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. And Tom, again, we're talking about Vardy, we're talking about Daka, we're talking about making changes. For me, we've got the problems that are fairly clear. Again, with that injury list, I can see at times what Brendan's talking about because he's quite openly saying now I've not been given money to spend. I can't spend any money. Therefore, I told you 12 months ago when we lost 4-1 at Forest, we need a refresh. And he's also talking about an injury list where he's got 8 injured. But for me, that screams loan in 1 or 2 players. And there will be players who would like to come to Leicester. Now, I've got no problem dipping down into the Championship. I'd just like to see some guts being brought in the form of a midfielder or a striker. Just somebody, I don't care if they've only got 6 months left in them, but you think this guy's going to leave it all out on the pitch. And I just think loan player. I'm going to shout a name out to you, Tom. Chris Wood, maybe, from Newcastle. Not really getting in their team anymore. I'd gladly have a Chris Wood back in the team.
I said the other person from Newcastle at the time, and people were very querying it, was Matt Targett. Sadly, he's got injured now with an ankle injury. But again, an experienced left back in the Premier League who could have done a job for 6 months while we're so short in that position. Yes, it's all about thing. I don't agree with Brendan saying I've not had any money because he's had plenty of money and he's wasted plenty of money. You know, Tillemans, no, he's 40 million. He's done his justice. He scored the FA Cup goal. He'll go down for that. Perez, 30 million. It's been a flop. You know, Daka, 23, 24 million. Still judgment on him, but at the moment, he's not looking like it's going to work out for him. Boubakary Samari, another 18 million. Doesn't look like that's worked out. Vestergaard, 12, 14 million. Doesn't look like it's worked out. You know, Wild Fads are judges on his still because he's come in and started poor, then he lit the world up, and now he's been found out that he's got no pace and everyone can get at him. So for Brendan to say he's not had the money, he has had the money. Ryan Bertram came in on us free. But they've wasted the money and wasted the money they had on not just the money they paid for players, but the wages. It all comes back down to the wages. And now we've got a squad what is big, full of injury players, and no money to spend because the wages are too big in the whole squad. So
Tom,
for me now, the low market is where we've got to go. In my view, to completely agree with you.
And I've got one for you now, and I'm going to say this. You'll probably laugh. People watching this will probably laugh. And this will show you exactly why fans should never be managers of football clubs. Do you know what? Fulham have loaned out Anthony Knockaert to Huddersfield. I'd have had Anthony Knockaert back at the club for 6 months. Somebody like that, because do you know what? The fans would have loved it. It would have rallied us all up. Yeah, maybe he'd only come on for 20 or 30 minutes at the end. Maybe he's not good enough. But I tell you what, Anthony Knockaert's got more passion in him than most of the current squad by double. And I'd have loved him to get back in there and say, right, I might not be the best player in the world, but I'll absolutely leave blood, sweat and tears on that pitch for Leicester City.
You know,
so you might think I'm stupid, but
no,
he's gone Huddersfield. You could have had him.
Exactly. And he would have fired the crowd up. He would have got the crowd going. He would have brought it up. The age thing doesn't bother me because he knows the club. He knows what it's about. You know, this one here, though, this is the one that bugs me.
Yes.
You know,
well, he's Reedy's told us he's the second highest goal scorer in the Italian league this season, I believe.
You know, 15. Well, what I don't get is, Phil, because if I sat around the table now and the board said to me as a fan, tell me what you want to know. Why have we got no money? Why can we now afford to go out and spend X amount of money on a winger from can't think of his name, Gomez from Fiorentina for 40 to 50 minutes if we get him that they're talking about, but we couldn't afford a winger who was at the football club last season, who proved he was good enough with 7 goals and 7 assists, and I think that's not a bad return in your first season, considering he wasn't playing week in, week out. We couldn't afford the 15 million, but we can go and spend 30 to 40 million now on someone who's not proven in the Premier League. This is what scares me. We're going abroad again, and we might sign someone who's not even going to come into the team. And we look at Daka, we look at Samari. They've taken 18 months to get in, to some kind of. Do you know what? They might be all right, but they might not be all right. When the judgment is still on them. I just look at it. I think Lookman was a player that knew what he was doing in the Premier League beforehand. He came into Leicester. The fans took to him a lot. Really liked him. I think most fans would say he would come in and do a job. But we don't spend 15 million. I just don't get that, mate. And that's the bigger thing. What I don't get is where's the money situation at the club going wrong so much?
So, Tom, would you have took Anthony Knockaert on loan for 6 months or not?
I think it would have been a little signing to bring into the club. If you've got no money, you're bringing in someone who knows the football club, who sort of knows a few of the players do. If you think about it, he still knows Everards up there, so he still would have come in and probably brought some lift to the team. If you're on about it, if the rumours are true, what we've heard over the last 40 hours from certain individuals, that it's not just not a meltdown in everywhere. There's a whole the squad is not happy in general. Then you need something to lift this squad at the moment. Obviously, you haven't got Maddison on the pitch to do that.
It'd be interesting. I've just for fun, because it's gone now. We can't have Anthony Knockaert back. But I just, when people say, "Oh, who would you get? What would you get?" and I'm just like, "Well, there you go. There's a cheeky little loan till the end of the season. It's not going to cost you a lot. Passion. He's got a bit of skill. Fulham obviously don't want him because he's gone to Huddersfield. So when people say, who do you get in on loan? I'm like, I don't know. I'm not paid a heap load of money to spend all day looking to see who is available and who might not be available. But there are players who you could get in for a loan period. And I said it today in the office, and I thought, oh, they'll all think I'm stupid. But I thought for me, he ticks a lot of the little boxes. He would have got the fans excited for a few minutes.
Chuck a question back at you, Phil. We probably said this name 2 seasons ago, and he's still not come to us. And you knew you would add him, and that's Mitrovic at the time. He's a different type of striker.
I'm just an idiot. When as soon as Fulham got relegated, I said, let's go get Mitrovic, because he is an alternative, and he holds the ball up really well. You can watch the videos from 2.5 years ago when I said it, and instead we spent 30 million on Daka. But what the hell do I know? Right now, says Imran, I would take Jeff Schlupp at the minute. Well, Jeff Schlupp actually plays week in, week out, Imran, for Crystal Palace. So, yeah, I don't think. I mean, Michael E says never go back, move forward. I agree, but what I'm looking for sometimes, Michael, is sometimes you need to loan in a bit of a maverick player or a bit of something that gets things going.
We've brought players back in the past, remember? Because I remember Steve Guppy coming back to us in that Premiership season. We got relegated. He sort of gave the club a bit of a lift. We had Paul Dickoff back in the League One season to give the club a lift. It can work.
Joe says here Scott McTominay could be available from Man United. Do you know? I quite like him, Tom. I think again I don't think he's Man United quality, but I actually think he offers quite a lot. I think I've seen him play plenty good enough.
I think he's a good enough player, and I think he could do a lot for Leicester. But at the moment in time, my concern is we need someone to score goals and someone to create goals, and we need a centre half. If we're going to say now, who would I go for? We need a centre back. We need a right winger who can play on the right wing and cut inside like Brendan likes to play. And you need someone to put the ball in the net. And at the moment, that's what we're lacking. We're lacking a goal scorer to put the ball away when we do create these chances. Tony Coffey, Heskey too. Now we're talking legendary status. Cox. He was one of my favourite strikers for Leicester.
I knew it would get you going. The Anthony Knockaert was a serious one. I'm just like, I heard he'd gone to Huddersfield on a free loan for a few months. I'm like, ticks lots of boxes for me, and I always like the don't sell Knockaert. And I'll always remember when he scored away at Forest in that last minute game.
Brilliant.
That's what it's about. That was the start, all that sort of stuff. And I just think, it feels like a little while since we've had that passion. Tom, listen, I'm going to let you go. Maguire on loan, he's saying. Maguire on loan to the end of the season.
You would, wouldn't you?
Oh, of course you would. Anybody who says don't, but then it's not going to happen, is it? It's not going to happen. Listen, Tom, thanks a lot for joining us tonight. You've got an away fan show this week. Just tell everybody who's watching about that.
Yeah, Wednesday night, 8 o'clock with the Albion Roar. We'll have a half an hour chat and build it to Brighton at home. What is now, well, an even bigger game than what was at the weekend. We need to turn this form round. As I said at the weekend, you need to turn these losses into draws and the draws into win, and you've got to somehow start. And they don't come any easier. They're against Brighton, who just smashed Liverpool for 3 at the weekend, who are sort of flying. So massive game, and it'll be a massive preview show.
And that's on Wednesday at 8 o'clock, Tom?
8 o'clock. Wednesday at 8, join me for an away fan show with Brighton Roar.
Fantastic. Thanks, Tom. I'll let you go. We'll see you
Cheers,
on Wednesday night. Cheers, mate. Thanks so much to Tom, who was there, obviously, on Saturday. Watched that game against Forest live, 8 o'clock on Wednesday with the Albion Roar. Looking forward to that. Obviously, we've got a match preview on, I think, Thursday coming out with Reedy and Sam. That will be going out as well during the day. And then we've got match day on Saturday. What is going to happen on Saturday? Listen, for me, we've done this before, but it is one of those, we're going to have to start it again this week. We need to be the 12th man. We need to do our bit. If we turn up on Saturday, we need to back the lads. You need to back Brendan Rodgers. You need to give the support. I know it's hard if they're not giving you much on the pitch, but sometimes as fans, we've got to dig deep. So we're going to be building up to it all week. But I ask fans, again, we've done it so many times, haven't we? Let's try to back them as hard as we can. Let's get the singing going. Let's not get the groaning going. Whatever happens, let's nobody boo. Don't boo them. Don't boo. I don't think that's right. I know you pay your money. It's your views, but I've never booed them. Just try to sing your hearts out as best we can. And let's hope that something happens on Saturday. We need a win. Let's hope it is Saturday. If it's another defeat, I don't know where we go from here. But let's hope it's a win, because the games after that are really tough. Brighton at home isn't the toughest game out the next 3 or 4. You've got your Man U's, Arsenal's, Villa's away. It is tough. Listen, my name's Phil. This is Leicester Fan TV, live every Monday, 7:30 till 8. We'll see you all very soon. Thanks for Tom to joining us, but thanks for all your views, all your comments. Can't do it without you. And I'll see you again next week. Thanks all.
Thanks for watching Leicester Fan TV. Thanks to our sponsors, ADT Taxis, Everards, Pukka Pies, Pink Car Leasing, Leicester Riders, Hollogram, The Fox's Arms, Peter's